Welcome to Taking the Rams by the Horns, a podcast that takes current affairs out of current affairs. This is a podcast in partnership with Sowetan Live. I'm your host, Rams Mabote. Everybody seems to be having their own winter of discontent. Right? It was President Cyril Ramaphosa, Senzo Mchunu, the whole police department. And now, just outside my doorstep here, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi is not having a good time. A few weeks ago, the Premier announced that there's been a lot of wrong things in the province. They did a lifestyle audit on the province and they found a number of wrong things, which we're going to go through. Not all of them, because there's just too many and we have only limited time on any podcast. This could take a lifetime. But one of them is that there are managers with fake matric qualifications in the Gauteng provincial government. I think he's making a mountain out of a molehill. Fake matric qualifications? Who doesn't have? I mean, that's like par for the course, right? In fact, in the Eastern Cape, they've done better. I mean, 48 dishes out degrees to anybody who wants it, whether you've gone to school or not. So come on, man. Mr. Lesufi, what's a fake matric qualification? And then there's ghost nurses. Okay, that on its own sounds spooky. To mention a nurse and a ghost in one line. But we're hearing about ghost nurses in Gauteng. I'm not sure what's worse. Overcrowded hospitals, ghost nurses, or nurses that do not do their work. I'm not sure what the Premier has to work hard to deal with most. But I suppose the problem with ghost nurses is that they don't work and they earn and they don't exist. At least the nurses that exist and do not work, we know they exist. We could say he's paying them for coming to work, even if they don't do anything. The ghost ones don't have a right to be there, to be honest. So well done, Mr. Premier. And then there was a story about officials paying a company, a supplier, 500 rand for a soccer ball. I don't like the word soccer, but I can't say football ball. It doesn't sound right? So a soccer ball, 500 rand. I don't think even Mamelodi Sundowns pays that much for one soccer ball, right? And worse still, this happens at a psychiatric hospital. I mean, if there's a worse statement of taking advantage of people, it has to be this one. Why there? Why can't you do it at some lavish hospital somewhere where people can afford this? I mean, psychiatric hospital, and what are they buying balls for? I mean, I'm not saying people with mental issues can't play football, but something doesn't smell right for me here. Like something smells completely wrong. So I want you to think about this matter, whether they bought one ball or they bought 1,000 of them at 500 rand a piece. Imagine this hospital with patients with psychiatric issues. What are they going to be doing with these balls? I mean, I think it's a balls up, right? I think it's a complete balls up. And then it gets better. Or worse, it depends how you look at these things. Then he commissioned a forensic investigation. The matters went to the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, and this has resulted in 88 officials facing consequence management. Now, that phrase in the ANC government don't ever meet, or at least they don't meet a lot of times. So I'm going to go to consequence management later because I was like, what? Did I hear well? Consequence management? Isn't it change? Anyway, but one of the culprits hired their own relative. It happens all the time, but this one is classic. In the Premier's office. In the Premier's office. Like, how daring can you be hiring your own relative in the Premier's office? I mean, that's daring. I sort of likened it to dating my girlfriend's sister. Or even mother. It sounds so daring that one could do something like that. Then 152 government employees were conducting business with government. I had to think about this. Do they do this during working hours and then they do their work when they get home? Because now we're doing hybrid work, right? Or do they do their work in the office first and then at night they're trading with government? Or because we know a lot of them don't do much in the office, it is that classic case of the devil finding work for idle hands. So, this is when I really, really would have loved to work for government. It can't be easier than this, guys. At Leratong Hospital on the West End, a manager in the administration office was not qualified for her job. But that was not the problem. She just kept on being promoted. Like, it's so bad that you are not qualified for this job. Let's rather move you up, right? Like, maybe you'll get better as you move up. I mean, that's taking that concept of recognition of prior learning too far, I think. I mean, this person has to be very special, that they had to be moved up, in spite of the fact that they did not qualify for the very first job they walked through the doors for. It is hard for Panyaza Lesufi. I feel so sorry for him. I mean, remember, guys, whether you like it or not, this is one of the most famous politicians in this country, not only in this province, and famous for being a Mr. Action. Whether you agree with the action all the time or not, that's not the point. Point is, this is sad happening to him from where I sit. And then at the other, another psychiatric hospital, Vescopis Psychiatric Hospital in Pretoria, a company collected 30,800 rand supplying the hospital with paintbrushes and balls. Now, however, the same items are said to cost 8,000 rand at normal cost. They charged 30,000 rand, 800 rand. Right? This is crazy, guys. And nobody saw anything wrong in this. Now, I do business outside this. When current affairs people don't create content for me, there are other things that I do. And I invoice for them, or I start by quoting for them. I even get questioned when I sell this cup of coffee, which I buy for 35 rands, and I sell it for 35 rand 20 cents. A lot of buyers say, no, you're too expensive. But hey, here, you can sell anything that's worth 800 rand or 8,000 rand for 30,000 rand. Wow. So the 55 cases are now with law enforcement. There's going to be action, right? But as if this was not enough, Panyaza's own partner in the city of Johannesburg, the mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, then tells us that, the city is 80% functional. Nah, Mr. Mayor, that can't be right. I mean, I almost fell into a pothole when I heard that. I was driving, and when he said that, I was like, my car almost disappeared into a pothole. What do you mean 80% functional? I mean, I now have more homeless friends because I've befriended these guys who help us at traffic lights to control the traffic when your guys are not doing the work, waiting around the corner, of course, to take some cool drink from us for one reason or another. Literally 50 meters from traffic lights that do not work, where I have made a number of friends who are helping us in spite of some idiots who are very irritated with them, not realizing that without them, it would be more chaotic. But our guys in orange and white cars, just around the corner, collecting money for lunch. In fact, every time I walk into a fast food shop and I see a JMPD police officer, only one thing comes to mind. Like, you had a good time. Which is probably unfair. I mean, I suspect everybody must afford to buy their own food. But if you know what we know with JMPD and us. So let's get to consequence management, because Panyaza Lesufi on Monday called a press conference to announce what he's going to do with this matter. So the other issue was that there were heads of department in Gauteng that were underperforming or underspending their budget. So about 1.8 billion rand of the budget of Gauteng has not been spent by the people given the responsibility to spend it. And the Premier was very angry. Like, this can't be right. So, you know what he did? He reshuffled. He reshuffled these officials. Yeah, okay. He fired about 3 or 4 of them, but the others, he reshuffled. So you underspent 1.8 billion. No, we don't fire you. We just put you somewhere else I'm not sure, to spend or underspend another budget. I'm not sure what the rationale is there, right? I mean, if you missed your service delivery targets in this department, let's say arts, sports and culture, who says you're going to spend it in public safety? I mean, why? Where's the agency? Right? So whether you're in a department with a big budget and you don't spend it, why do they think in a department with a smaller budget you'll spend it? This sounds to me like, somebody being, or a Mamelodi Sundowns coach being fired to go and work for Kaizer Chiefs. Okay, it's a bad example, but I'm sure you get the drift, right? Nothing personal. Because see, I was just trying to make an example about what I think this thing means. So, a former director who was in sports was promoted to HOD in another department. His name is Albert Chane. So, no. This guy was a former chief director in the Department of Sport. Then he was promoted to head of department in the same department. And he failed to shine. He did not spend the budget. What does the Premier do? He appoints him acting head of department in the Department of Education, the department with the biggest budget in the province. He couldn't spend it in the department with the smallest budget in the province. He now goes to education. You gotta help me to understand this. Like, I'm gonna help you understand this thing. It's like, you're firing someone from a position of a dishwasher and appoint them to be head of catering. How does that work? Honestly. I mean, there's another guy, Motlacho Moholwa, was investigated for corruption in his previous job elsewhere. Now, he's HOD in Department of Economic Development. It's not over. That investigation is not over of corruption elsewhere where he worked. Now he's head of department in Economic Department. Let that sink in. Okay, let's move on. So, for me, it feels like the day President Cyril Ramaphosa is not happy with Panyaza Lesufi, say, as Premier, you should just move him to the Free State or Eastern Cape, right? So go to a smaller province or a province with a smaller budget because you can't manage this big province. Is that how it works? Really? I mean, okay, I'm not going to do Nazareth. I like Nabi guys, but I feel like if he underperforms the Chiefs, he must move to Chippa United. Like, that's how it works, right? If football was run by government, that's how they would do it. But again, enough with bad examples. So let me then conclude by how Premier Panyaza Lesufi explains the reshuffles instead of firing people. And I'm going to quote him. He says, "I wish it were easy, like dealing with politicians, where one can just say, hey, we have reshuffled, go home. Not exactly, Mr. Premier. President Cyril Ramaphosa has just redeployed a minister into special leave when he could have sent him home. So clearly, even with ministers, we don't just reshuffle and send them home, right? We still find ways of making sure that they take bread home, sometimes literally." Lesufi also said government did not want to lose money because of recklessness and being excited with the processes of removing people. He's speaking to, processes when if you fire people without process, then they can take you to CCMA or blah, 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 they can sue you. But if people have done wrong, I am sure even the law gives you the right to fire them. Honestly. I'm not sure which law says, well, promote them or demote them upwards. I don't know which law works that way. But anyway, I find it very, very worrisome that government finds it okay to be reckless and excited in appointing people who don't qualify for jobs, but can't be reckless in getting rid of them. So how can you do both sides? And then, at least, Kenny Kunene, remember that fellow? I mean, at least Kenny Kunene proved to us that he's a true patriot. That's why they call themselves Patriotic Front. When he was found to have been in a house whose owner he does not know, transporting a journalist whom we still don't know, he decided, well, I'll step aside, right? I think that's patriotic, Kenny. Although you still owe us, I mean, the journalist who was there with you, I'd like to meet this young journalist, who I also think should have written the story about you resigning as MMC. I mean, this journalist is sitting on amazing stories and he's not writing them. But I digress. This is not about Kenny Kunene. But yeah, as we know, but had he stayed, had Kenny Kunene not resigned, let me tell you what the mayor of Joburg, Dada Morero, would have done. Get it? Nothing. And he would have called it, I'm applying my mind. So, moral of the story. If you are given money to build 5 schools, and all you do is to build 3 prefab toilets, government will punish you and move you to a department where you have to build 1,000 kilometers of roads. You have to be punished. How could you not build the schools that you need to build? If you steal money or employ friends and family, you will be reprimanded and sent to manage a food production process at a hospital of 3,000 beds because you are naughty, right? How dare you hire a family here? Gonna give you a tougher job so that you know that you are being reprimanded. Or if you're battling to deliver a desperately required IT system, you probably will do better promoting tourism in the province, right? I mean, it's easier than IT, so let's rather give you a lighter job. Maybe we'll get people from Lesotho coming here, and not only to take the mines that are not in use. But finally, if you are lucky, and there are many people who are lucky, if you are lucky and have done poorly in your job, you will be retained because government does not want to act recklessly and fire you. Right? So the best thing to do is to promote you downwards. This is an amazing place, guys. If you can and if you will, please search for government jobs. You are missing out on great opportunities. And while you're doing that, read this book. It will at least take you out of the misery that Premier Panyaza Lesufi, who bought the book, by the way, is going through. The Sweetest Taboo is the book to read. Thank you to all of you who've been subscribing. The numbers are going up. Thank you for sharing with everybody. And if you want to comment, don't send me a WhatsApp. Comment on the page. There, on the page, so that everybody else sees what you have to do. Even if your comment is to tell me to go to hell. I want the whole world to know that I am going to hell. Don't just tell me. So please, folks, especially my older friends, there's a comment section there. But to those of you who have not subscribed, it's a very small button. You can see it as you speak to me. To my left, there is a button. It's written subscribe. Click on it. All is done. All is done. Don't ever miss on this content ever again. From me, Rems Mabote, goodbye and God bless.